Welcome back, and just in time for me to change that pennant to the Hartford Whalers, we're going to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes, the former Hartford Whalers. Carolina's in the midst of the best run this organization's ever had, easily dating back to when they were the Hartford Whalers, and it's continued this year when a lot of people thought they were going to fall off. Now, there's still the possibility that their record falls off a bit, but really, this 9-2 start to me looks legit. We don't know how they're going to finish, but we can look at the previous 3 seasons and see how they finished there. Last year, through 11 games, they were 6-5, and I believe that was after that West Coast swing that was kind of a disaster. They still ended up 52, 23, and 7 on the season, 111 points, second in the Metro. The previous year, 8-2-1 record, 52, 21-9 record. Almost said 29-1. 21-9 record, 113 points, first in their division, and they won the division the year before that as well with a record of 10-1 to start, and they ended up 54, 20, and 8 for 116 points. So they've fallen off a bit. They went from 116 points to 111. If they follow that trend, they'll be down to maybe 108 this year. Still a contender. So with Carolina, the argument's been they lost depth in the offseason. My argument's been no. And so I wanted to look at the stats and the numbers and also look at how well this was run. There are teams that are very loyal to players and are willing to do whatever they can to keep the band together. And then there are teams that say, you know what? Financially, it doesn't make sense. And Carolina did this past offseason, which I think is why the perception was they were going to be worse this season, but they're not. So Teravainen, last year, 76 games, 25 goals, 28 assists, 53 points. He leaves the team, signs a contract with Chicago where his cap hits $5.4 million till 2027. So far with Chicago, 14 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. Not as dynamic in Chicago as he was in Carolina. Obviously, it's not as good of a team in Chicago as Carolina. Points are a little harder to come by. But it does kind of bear out that maybe Carolina would have made the right decision in letting Teravainen go. Brady Shea, 80 games, 13 goals, 34 assists, 47 points last year. He signs for a cap hit of $7 million with Nashville, who may be going into a rebuild. That cap hit lasts till 2031, so that is a long-term contract. This year with the Nashville Predators, 13 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. So it's not that Shea's been bad, and I'm not trying to say any of these players are necessarily bad. We'll get to the replacements. I just wanted to look at the production and how much it's costing the teams that got him. Stefan Noesen, absolutely ridiculous start to the season for him with New Jersey. Last year in Carolina, 81 games, 14 goals, 23 assists, 37 points. This organization showed a lot of faith in Noesen, and he cashes in. He gets a contract with a cap hit of $2.75 million a year until 2027. And so far, New Jersey's easily getting their money's worth. 15 games, 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points for Noesen, and he's been dynamic with New Jersey. So that might be one that you can argue, it's too bad Carolina didn't keep him, but would he be scoring like that with Carolina? Have they really missed him in Carolina, other than maybe on, the level of nostalgia, right? And then you've got Jake Guentzel. He was a rental, 17 games, 8 goals, 17 assists, 25 points in Carolina. He signs for a cap hit of $9 million in Tampa until 2031. So far in Tampa, 13 games, 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points. He has outperformed Stamkos, who, of course, that was the choice. They went with Guentzel and let Stamkos go to Nashville. But again, at $9 million, if the Carolina Hurricanes had signed him to that contract, some of the additions they've made, some of this roster would have looked different. Totally understandable why Carolina would look at that cap hit and say, that's not for us. While for Tampa, they're like, fine, we will add him at that $9 million cap hit. Every team's cap situation is different. Brett Pesce, a long-time Carolina Hurricane, 70 games last year, 3 goals, 10 assists, 13 points. He signed for a $5.5 million cap hit in New Jersey. That goes until 2030. He's only played 6 games in New Jersey so far. No points, which is not his game anyways. But again, $5.5 million a year for Brett Pesce, probably just too rich for Carolina. Although last year there was rumors he wanted out before the season even started. He wasn't going to re-sign, yet he didn't. So in the end, that came to fruition, but Carolina's not hurting for it. Tony DeAngelo last year played 31 games, 3 goals, 8 assists, 11 points. He's now in the KHL. Evgeny Kuznetsov, a rental at the deadline, 20 games, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points. He's off to the KHL. It does turn out to be a rental. no matter how you end up getting there, it does turn out to be a rental because his contract's gone. Antti Ranta, a 12-7-2 record, but the 872 save percentage, not fantastic. And he's playing in the Swiss League. So the combined cap hit for the players who are still in the NHL, $29.64 million, according to my calculator. $29.64 million if they'd wanted to keep Teravainen, Shea, Nason, Gensel, and Pesce and paid them the same money they got elsewhere. It's too much. It's too high. So the replacements they got, first off, Shane Goss-Despair has not missed a beat going back to Carolina. 11 games, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. He replaces what Brady Shea was doing for them. He is signed to a $3.2 million cap hit till 2027. That is less than half the money that Shea's getting in cap hit. And in Detroit last year, Goss-Despair played 81 games, 10 goals, 46 assists, 56 points. Ghost signing for $3.2 million a year with Carolina is one of the biggest bargains in the National Hockey League. We can have the debate about, well, he's not great defensively. Look, at $3.2 million, he's getting almost a point per game, and he had 56 points last year. He's a pretty good offensive defenseman. Roslovic, who last season didn't have a great year, but so far 11 games, 7 goals for Roslovic. No assists, but who cares? 7 goals. He's on a $2.8 million cap hit for this season, so he's a UFA next summer. Last year he splits the year between Columbus and the Rangers. 59 games, 9 goals, 22 assists, 31 points. There was nothing to indicate that Roslovic would be able to score like this. This is just good pro scouting and just understanding what your team needs and who's going to plug in where and hopefully get some success. There's definitely, I guess you could point out there's some luck to this, but when a team does it year after year after year, and Carolina seems to be able to do this, I had thought about doing this for like 5 seasons, but I thought, no, we'll just compare this year to last year, and then maybe I'll get more ambitious and compare it over 5 years later. Jackson Blake, 11 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points. He's on a $906,000 cap hit until 2026. I think that's pretty good. He has replaced, you could argue he's replaced Nason in the lineup. Nason's $2.75 million cap hit is a bargain, but the $906,000 cap hit for Jackson Blake suits just fine. Then you've got Eric Robinson. 11 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. $950,000 cap hit for this season. Robinson last year played for Columbus and Buffalo, played 47 combined games, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. So you've got Roslovic almost having equaled the goals he had last season already. Robinson is over halfway to the amount of points he had all season last year. Again, Carolina knows what they need. They know who's going to plug in. Hey, when they signed these guys, I looked to and I was like, okay. But because I know it's Carolina, I know there's a chance it's going to work. Carrier, 11 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. He's not about points. He's on a $2 million cap hit till 2028. The length may be something that people look at and go, well, that's not great. But at $2 million for the cap hit, and with the salary cap that's going to go up again next summer and probably go up again the following summer, it's not bad. And last year in Vegas, he played 39 games, 6 goals, 2 assists, 8 points. So we know that he can score at a decent rate for a bottom 6 forward, and he's a pretty solid replacement, I guess, for Nason in the lineup. Sure, why not? And again, I'm not going to get into all the other players and the ice time that switched and everything. I just wanted to get into the new additions and the guys who've left. Now, Sean Walker might be the only one that you can point to right now and say, well, that was an overpay. 11 games, 1 goal so far, no assists, $3.6 million cap hit till 2028. In a season split between Philadelphia and Colorado, 81 games, 10 goals, 19 assists, 29 points last season. I think Walker's going to get it going. He's been prominent. He's just not getting the points at this time. I do think that'll happen. So the replacements for these guys from last year who are now carrying a cap hit on various other teams of almost $30 million, the replacements, $13 million. $13.456 million. Again, use the old trusty calculator for that one. And that tells me that that's less than half the price. So what's great about this is it means that you now have room for other contracts. You don't have to worry about having to sell off other players to keep the other guys. You let them go. And I do think that general managers would be wise too. Once players are getting into the early 30s, mid 30s, and once you're looking at contracts that are going to be not necessarily great for your team, you have to be willing to let guys go. And maybe it starts with Vegas. Maybe with the way Vegas did business, other teams are realizing, you know what, they've got a point. And the loyalty that we've seen between player and team over the years, which has always been kind of questionable. It feels like now it's more questionable than it used to be. So while we have fewer trades, it feels like we have a lot of movement of players in the offseason, and teams aren't quite as shy about making what looks like a downgrade, but it's not. And the numbers show Carolina's excellent. So last year they had a 677 points percentage. That was third in the NHL. Right now they have an 818. It's second only because Winnipeg's insane. Goals for per game. Last year 3.38. That was eighth overall. This year 4.09. That's third overall. Goals against per game. Last year 2.57. That was fourth. This year 2.45, which is third. So not only are they scoring more, they're allowing less. Their points percentage has gone up, and people will still look at this team and go, but they're not as good as the one they had last year. I think it's just perception. I think reality shows this team could arguably be better than last year. And on a bargain contract haven of just roster players they picked up from elsewhere knowing exactly what they needed. Their power play has dipped. So there you go. From 26.9% last year, which was second, to 25% this year, which is eighth. So it's not much of a dip at all. Penalty kill has also dropped off a little bit. They've gone from 86.4%, which was first, to 83.3%, which is 10th. But again, those are good special teams numbers, just not the crazy numbers that we're used to seeing from Carolina. So can they keep this going? I would say their upcoming schedule is a good test, but no reason to think that they're going to drop off. So tonight they're at home against Pittsburgh. That's a winnable game, right? As long as you take Pittsburgh seriously and not lightly, it's a winnable game. Then they go to Colorado on Saturday. That's going to be tough because I do think the Avs are going to go through an upswing. And then on Monday, they're in Vegas. So those are back-to-back games that I could see. I'll pick that up after. Those are back-to-back games I could see Carolina losing. I'd be very surprised if they lost back-to-back, but I could see it. And then on Wednesday, they're in Utah. So if they lose back-to-back here, I feel bad for Utah that night because it's not going to be pretty. Then the following Saturday, they're at home. So this 3-game road trip concludes. They're at home against the Ottawa Senators. We know Ottawa's been very up and down. They've had their struggles on the road. Then the next night, they're at home against St. Louis. St. Louis, very up and down team. And then they have a back-to-back that follows the back-to-back, as on Wednesday and Thursday, they go play in Philadelphia, and then they're playing in New Jersey. It is not a daunting upcoming schedule. I don't think that the 9-2 record is fool's gold. I don't think that this is a team you need to sell on. I think that they're just a really good team. They're not going to stay at an 818 points percentage. We know this. But can they end up around the 700 mark? Yeah, I think they can. And I think that anybody who wrote this team off and said, well, they're not going to be contenders this year because they lost. I mean, like I said, Gensel was a rental. Kuznetsov was only there 20 regular season games. So who did they lose exactly? I mean, Shea, I'm not saying you losing Shea is nothing, but Gostisbehere has made up for the loss of Shea and at less than half the cost. So I would argue right now, Carolina's probably a better team than the one that they had last year. And they're still going to be able to make additions at the deadline as rentals. So if you're looking going, well, they still lost Gensel and Kuznetsov, they could still add rentals at the deadline. And I'm sure they're going to, especially if they keep pegging off wins like this. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the Carolina Hurricanes. Is this sustainable? Again, my answer to that is yes. Watching their games this year, they just look absolutely ridiculously dangerous. And I don't see any reason why that's going to change anytime soon. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event that you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.